Richard.
Hi, Kim. How are you?
I'm really great. I'm so happy to talk to you about sensitive skin. First of all, to talk to you, but also about sensitive skin.
Well, the show is great. They sent over 4 episodes that I was able to have a look at earlier this week, and I was really taken with them. It's just such a great job, so congratulations.
Oh, thank you. That means so much to me. It's an 8-year journey to get those 6 golden episodes.
Well, tell me about that. What was it? I guess it's a 2-part question. So what was it about the UK show that inspired you to stay at this for 8 years? And what keeps you going on a project for that long? So many of us would go, after 5 years, you know what, I gave it a shot. But, now maybe it's time to move on. How do you stay so focused on something for that long?
Well, I'm really inspired. My mentor is Janet Sisman, and she really instilled in me, I think, a code for taking on projects, which is, what are you trying to say?
Right.
Not just what do you want to play and what character do you want to play, but there's got to be another reason. What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say about women? What are you trying to say about a view of life, an opinion of what's there, what's missing? For me, I wanted to tell a story about a woman my age coming to terms with mortality, especially after the death of a parent and then the ending of a relationship, which I think most people in their 30s are starting to experience, not so much in the sense of death, but in the sense of death of a marriage or a relationship, or the complications of what I know, what my professional life is. I know who I am there, but who am I outside of that, especially when you're approaching retirement age. But I'm also making a comment, I think, about the narcissism of our society. We're so incredibly self-involved, which all of these characters are. And if they would just listen to each other, as if we would just listen to each other in life, we might be able to get what we want.
Well, I saw the sofa, the Chesterfield.
It's a great metaphor, isn't it?
As the metaphor for the whole show, yeah.
Yes. I mean, you're trying to fit into something that doesn't fit because you don't know who you are, because you haven't really invested. You've been investing in who you want to be or who people expect you to be, but who are you really? And I didn't see any material anywhere near tackling that or even approaching that. And when I saw Sensitive Skin, I was looking for something that was the antithesis in some ways of Sex in the City.
Right.
Not in the sense of a character, but in the sense of, in Sex in the City we glorified this world, which was in some ways very lonely and painful, but very celebrated. And here you're looking on the next chapter of, women and what that is when you really took on the mantle of a wife, a mother, a model, an actress. You never really felt comfortable in all of those roles. But who are you now, and what do you want, and where is your life? I like things that pose questions and lets the audience come in and follow the story and start to reflect in one way or another, hopefully, things that they're maybe thinking about approaching, experiencing, have experienced, and are still, in one way or another, looking for some kind of connection.
Well,
These people ultimately want that. They just are going about it in a completely crazy way.
Well, absolutely, because nobody knows. No one's got it figured out.
No, and you never do.
Yeah.
But I think what's really brave about the character of Davina is that she's willing. A lot of us aren't willing. She's willing to take the chance to look over the garden fence and see if that is indeed who she is and what she wants. And it's not really about a man. It's really about her. So when I read that, I didn't read the scripts. I never read the original scripts.
Right.
I had a meeting with John Plowman, who was then head of comedy at BBC Two, and he's a really brilliant man. He works with Jennifer Saunders and Dawn French. Ab Fab is his show. The Office is his show. You go on and on. Really amazing comedy teams and material. And he asked me if I wanted to, creatively come in and have a conversation and find a writer to develop a series for me. And I was so flattered. And he said to me, I have this series called Sensitive Skin. It's only done 6 episodes. Would you like to take a look at it? Hugo Blick wrote it, directed it, produced it. His wife did the costumes on it. That was very low budget. Would you take a look at it and tell me if, that appeals to you? And I literally, it was my first binge watch experience, which was really exciting because I got to see all 6 episodes, one after the other. And I was hooked, immediately hooked, because these are the questions that I was starting to ask myself in 2006 when I met him. And I thought, nobody's writing this. I mean, the classics, it's in Shakespeare, it's in, really great writers. I'm not comparing Hugo Blick to Shakespeare in any way, but it's talking about the human condition that I think anybody can really relate to in the sense of searching and a quest. That's what all good storytelling is for me anyway. So that was the reason why. It was just so intelligent, and I just felt that nobody was talking about this. Baby boomers, you're one of them.
Mm-hmm. I am.
I mean, we're the largest audience member out there. People keep making films for young kids, but they should be making entertainment for us. Because we'll show up,
We still go to the theaters. We still watch TV.
Exactly. We like the big screen. We don't want to watch it on our phone. So I thought, this is the kind of programming that I want to see. It's entertaining, and I love the original script. Hugo did a brilliant job, and the additions, which were minor in comparison to what we used from the original. If you watch the original, it's a completely different show. We've just had the advantage of stepping back and pinpointing specifically to our needs, to a North American audience sensibility, opening it up. But the core, a lot of the core scenes are exactly as written. The delusions Bob Martin took in another direction, which I was so excited about, especially the delusion of Helen Hughes in The Hospice,
right.
Which is brilliant. I mean, she's like one of the 3 witches crawling up and saying, we've all got our hand on death's door, baby. I mean, it's really exciting stuff. So I'm very proud of it.
Well, it's interesting because we've talked about narcissism a little bit. We've talked about, the hand on death's door. We've talked about that. I think what we haven't mentioned yet is that it's really funny. And that's the thing that was really, one line that has stayed with me, a number of them have, but when you meet your old school friend on the street, and when she says, my parents said to me, stay in school, you ugly thing, that for some reason has stayed with me for a week now. So funny, and the show is ripe with those kinds of lines and humor that it's not really exactly the spoonful of sugar that makes the medicine go down, but it adds, I think, depth to something that's already very interesting.
Oh, thank you, Richard. The comedy that's another thing that I really learned from Sex and the City is that you can really talk about serious subjects like sex,
and cancer, and everything.
Like cancer, like mortality, like infidelity, like midlife crisis. You can talk about these things, but if you use humor to open it up instead of preaching or doing movie of the week, oh my God, she's going through menopause. Let's explore it in a different way because it wasn't about the hot flashes.
Right.
It's not about the younger guy. It's really intrinsically about that relationship and what's going on. And one of the things that I'm so most proud of as far as our version of it is that you really believe that Dawn and I are a couple. I do anyway. I don't for a minute think that that those 2 people have not been together for a very, very long time. They finish each other's sentences. They know exactly where. There's a real wonderful shorthand in the playing of it, which I think is really, really was required and we captured.
For me, the comfortableness in the relationship was, it's just such a funny little thing, but he's asking her for money constantly. And the way that she just sort of, Davina just opens her purse and gives it to him, there was it's a little thing, but it wasn't, there was no hesitation to it. These people have been together for a long time. Doesn't matter. Yeah. $80, $100 here and there. And it just struck me that was one of those little notes that indicated to me that this is long-term.
Yes, yeah. And the fact that he goes along with as much as he does is truly evidence of how much he loves her.
Yeah.
But it's the last two episodes particularly are. The last episode is really beautiful. I think, for me, I've seen all of Don's work, and I think it's as a director and as an actor, I think it's a new highlight in his work. He really has done a fantastic job. He really took it and made Toronto look like the city it is for me on film, which it's very difficult to capture because everybody wants, same old, and no-name city. And we've really, because he's lived there his whole life. I mean, we were shooting in neighborhoods even the crew didn't really know about, and so diverse, So I'm really excited by that too. That the city is part of this, is almost a character of it too, which it was in Sex and the City. But it's very difficult to do to make the city. You can talk about it, and people believe that you're somewhere else, but we've really given Toronto a midlife crisis too.
We're almost out of time, so I must ask you, Jack Lemmon, when you worked with him on Tribute, you said, how do you have longevity? And he said, only take things that scare the pants off you. What is it about this that was terrifying for you? Terrifying enough to make the leap?
Well, I think what it is I have, it's a change of the guard, isn't it? I'm starting to play characters who are of a certain age, and it's a feeling of, am I really ready for this? Holding on to yesterday instead of embracing whatever this is,
right.
And not knowing it. I think for me to bring this story to North America was the scariest thing, and to hang in there and really trust my instincts, because I doubted them at some times, and I put it on the shelf and I walked away, but I kept coming back. And I think that the thing that kept me coming back was the fear of it, to really, because I could go on playing Samantha for the rest of my life, but I wouldn't be very happy. I wouldn't be advancing in any way. So I think with this as an executive producer and having a very clear vision and sticking with it, it was really hard sometimes, and it did scare me. It did scare me daily on the set, where I think, is this right? I know that I'm with creatively the right people, but is this the right time? All of those questions. It's kind of very much, I never had children, but I can imagine it's like having a child, or through the gestation period. Instead of 9 months, it was almost 9 years, and you go through periods of real doubt and self-doubt and saying, am I alone in wanting to tell this story? And then you realize, no, I'm not alone telling this story. I don't have the right collaborators. And then when I found Don and Bob, surreptitiously really, I realized that, yes, this vision was correct, and it was very affirming and really exciting. But then we had to make it.
Yeah.
And the bar is high because it's BBC Two and it's Joanna Lumley, and I thought, screw it. We have to make it our own, our story, and we continue to do that in increments. It took 2 years, actually, from the time we decided to do it to the time that we were filming.